let me introduce all the speakers. Olga, good morning, good evening. I know you're from Riga, and I know you are Biennale owner or Biennale organizer. Feruza from San Diego, California, photographer and artist and a cultural event organizer. Natalya from Dubai, owner Andakulova Art Gallery. Tanya, professor, ethnomusician. Nice to meeting you guys today. And I would like Natalya to start our meeting today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anna, for organizing this conference, and absolutely happy to see everyone. I think this like thanks to pandemic, we are all using Zoom and all application which make us closer. And today I would like to talk about women in art and about the positive changes for the last 10 years, because as you know, historically women take not the great part, I can say, so not only in art, in all professions. And if we're talking about the museums or art institution, so nowadays is 80 to 90% it's male artists on the permanent exposition, so which is represent the whole art history. But slowly it's changing because of the feminism movement in 1960, and in general the 20th century is changing everything. So historically also even the art institute or academies didn't accept women. So even in 17th, 18th centuries there were certain numbers of women accepted, but though they were restricted, like for example attend the anatomy class, and it was a lot of restriction for women artists. And until almost the last moment, even the art collectors didn't want to buy artists, because a female artist, because they didn't believe that the female artist can be a good artist. So thanks to the all movements, especially feminism movements, everything is changing. And for like now we can see that a lot of museums like Tate Museum, Pushkin Museum, they're having the exhibition, like female exhibition. For some like museums, like for 200 years they didn't have any solo exhibition of the female artists. So that's why I can say that art, we're considering not only the artist, like it's also in movie industry. So nowadays more movie director only women, or even they create their own movie. I can hear on some interruption, like is it someone mic is on, or it's like my phone is like,
yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, because like while I'm talking I hear this some background. Yeah. And also in the fashion industry, like Maria Grazia Ciuri, the director of the Christian Dior, she was the first artistic director. So she started working in 2017, which is good. And also she created a lot of a lot of like new design clothes where she write the T-shirt that that was why there is no great female artist. So it was actually in 1971, the art historian, the Linda Nachlin, she used the first time this sentence, and I can say that like slowly but surely everything is moving. And when I studied in St. Petersburg in Imperial Academy of Art on the art history and theory of art, so it's like 80% of women. And I can see that the galleries, that's also mostly women nowadays, so which is good. And more and more unusual profession before, like even like a cameraman, yeah, it sounds like cameraman. Yeah, nowadays it's woman. So I can see the big tendency that to the positive side, that women in art taking the bigger and bigger role. Yeah, Anna?
Thank you, Natalya. Is anybody wants to add something or like any comments? So please, I am unmuting you.
Also, I want to add that, like as a gallery owner, I especially do the exhibition. Like in 2016, I did an exhibition, all female artists, dedicated to the 6 artists from Central Asia, and it had a very good impact. So, and also like exhibition of Almagul Menlibaeva, the artist from Kazakhstan, and she's one of the most well-known artists. And also she's working on the on the problem of on the gender problem, and she always speaks about it through her video or like a photo exhibition.
So do you know any, like, what is the most famous Central Asian female artist, let's say?
Oh yeah, Almagul Menlibaeva, because she's from Kazakhstan, but she moved to Berlin, and she well known in Europe and US, and she did a solo show in Grand Palais. She received Chevalier status from the French government. So like and a lot of contemporary museum having her artworks, like in Amsterdam. So I can say that she most well-known contemporary artist from Central Asia nowadays.
Interesting. Thank you. So I see that Tanya would like to say.
Sure. I wanted to ask, obviously as a gallery owner, we're talking about professional. I was curious about this sort of move that there are women artists accepted into academies and taken by galleries. But I'm wondering if you want to talk a little bit about the transition. At least certainly in music, there has been a transition across the 20th century from non-professional music practices. Like, women have always made music. It's just whether it was sort of given legitimacy through institutions. And so I wondered if you wanted to talk a little bit, what happened before institutions? Surely women are still making art, even if they're not given a space in the institutions. And sort of as a person who's running a gallery, is there any interest in folk art or some of these other traditional art type things?
Yeah, it's interesting that women art, even like to do a tapestry, like for example, Boyer art tapestry, which is very famous. It's 270 meters, which was done in medieval era. So it's definitely art, but somehow it was always considered as artisan. So kind of shifted from the real art towards something like more like artisan, which is less respected. And even like in Central Asia or any other countries, the female artist who made like Suzanne, this also the embroidery, which is very popular, or it was in the music, or like they said the first artist was in the 1st century who did the sketch of the lover on the wall. So somehow during all the centuries, it was forgotten or put it aside. Even sometime like in Flemish women artists, like in 17th century, recently they start to show the exhibition, but most of the people consider that it's male Flemish great artists. So it's somehow like Natalya Serebrikova, she's the like artist of the beginning of the 20th centuries. Somehow she was she's supposed to be doing the art between the kids, like 4 kids, and she was also forgotten. And only recently, Natalia Goncharova, Serebrikova, she's like having the solo show. It was also the Goncharova, she's nowadays one of the most expensive Russian artists. And also recently the British young contemporary artist beating the records, because if we're talking about the most expensive art, it was no any woman. So it's Picasso, it's David Hockney, it's name it, but there is no women artists. But somehow nowadays there is gender problem that always in newspaper and people talking about it. That's why the collectors even trying to support and to have this minus as a problem, and they're trying to buy because the more and more museums trying to fill this gap.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Olga, do you have something? I believe that you might have something to say.
I have a question from your experience. Which are the leading topics of, let's say, female art at the moment, of artists with whom you are working with, for example?
Yeah, I find that's very interesting, like the pollution, the plastic. It's kind of very common topics that female artists are interested. Of course, it's like a global problem, but somehow like Almagul is always working on it, and also the climate changes, because especially on her series about Aral Sea, which existed in Central Asia, and like thanks to the Soviet time, it was created a big channel which is drain this water into the desert, and nowadays it's like instead of the sea there is a desert, and Almagul has photos of this place where you can see the ships which is just standing on the sand, and it's a problem. That's why like Uzbekistan, it's the only country the sea locked. There's no water around, and also this problem affected a lot of people who lived there and was a fisherman, or the whole lifestyle is completely changed. Now it's desert there.
Feruza?
Olga, I hope I answer your question, that what's the common topic they're discussing and trying to show in their artworks. So this is the topic what they discuss. It's a global problems about the climate, pollution, or plastic.
Yeah, but then we can't speak about something specific in a female, like what, I mean, gender relates?
The gender as well, of course. The gender, like Almagul also, she has the exhibition dedicated to the feminism. So and it's also like very interesting how she twisted, and like I even can share some of the artworks. So it's interesting to see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalya. If there is no more questions, I'd like to move forward to the next speaker, Olga. Your turn, please.
I would like to share my screen. Can somebody allow me? And
yeah, here we go.
Okay, do you see my screen now?
Yes, we can, yeah.
All right. So I would like to start my presentation. May you live in an interesting. Probably someone is familiar with that. It was the main topic of the previous Venice Biennial of Contemporary Art, on number 58 of last year. And it was the main inspiration point for the curator in order to speak in which time do we live. And suddenly it became very prophecy to what happens in the year after. And this old Chinese curse means that either we like it or not, we live in interesting times, and they are times of danger and uncertainty, but they are also the most creative of any time in history of mankind. And the next quotes belongs to another artist from Kosovo who was first time representing his country in Venice last year, and he was speaking about the war in Kosovo, but this very strong sentence saying like, whatever happens, we must be prepared. And as we all now speak about time and this circumstances we all are in, this time of uncertainty, I would like to tell you a bit about my experience. As Anna represented me, I work for the Riga Biennial of Contemporary Art. This is a very recent new institution which was organized by Azeema Nur, who is the founder, and she's a philanthropist and the patron of art. And she launched the Biennial in 2016 as a new institution, and she invited me to work as a Biennial coordinator from scratch. And so we launched the first Biennial in 2018. It was quite successful and had very positive reviews. We had more than 55,000 visitors, around 100 artists from all over the world. And by this year, by mid-May, we were preparing the second Biennial. And so it was called, okay, it's jumping. So the topic of the Biennial is, and suddenly it all blossoms. And we were very much prepared. We had only 2 months before the opening when everything crashed. And we had to readjust ourselves. And we had 50 artists who were preparing their artworks. And suddenly everything were broken. And we had to be resilient. And we had an emergency meeting with the team, trying to discuss what are we going to do now, because it was obvious that the Biennial won't be open, even though we had more than like 5,000 people who were going to come to Riga for this event. And there was only a joke that, well, we started to prepare the Biennial 2 years in advance, and we were almost ready. And the main concept of the Biennial was about the reenchantment, and it was about building the desirable futures, as we all live in a time of crises, economical crisis, climate crisis, social crisis, ecological crises. And with the help and inspiration from artists, the idea was to find this alternative futures. And speaking that the end of a world does not mean the end of the world, we were trying to resonate and trying to reinvent how we all can communicate, how all we can contribute to our lives, and seek for alternatives. And can art offer alternative models for the way we inhabit Earth? And unfortunately, we were not able to continue with the exhibition as we planned. And the first thing we've decided that we should use this situation as an opportunity to change, to be resilient. And we decided that we will transform the exhibition into the movie, and we will finish the production of 40 artworks, and we will organize a setting. So finally, due to the long process of changing the formats, we will open the biennial in August for 3 weeks, and it will serve as a movie setting, but everyone can come as a visitor and participate in the film shooting or not, see some performances which will happen. And we very much anticipate that it will be a very interesting new experimental format. However, in May, as we plan to open, we launched the series of online talks and conversations, because there was an integral part of the biennial as a public program, where we invited 20 outstanding thinkers, anthropologists, philosophers, who were going to speak about the main concept which became the inspirational point for the biennial. And here you can see these words such as love, ruins, healing, magic, underground, care, dreams, imaginations. And now every Thursday, I invite you to join our talks and conversations. Some of them are published already, and speakers whom we selected now serves as the main inspiration authors for many contemporary artists and for many philosophers. And after listening to those people, I realized that I was looking for someone who would be able to embrace the world nowadays with all the mess which is happening, and trying to explain or to reflect on what is going on. And for example, there is a Mothering Against the World, Sophie Lewis. She's speaking about another alternative models of the motherhood and in nowadays. And it's a very interesting topic, and the lecture in terms of the also